Lyra had risen. Skirts balled in her fists, she stood blocking Vera from anyone's sight. Shoulders bunched up almost to her ears, with eyes squinting past a curtain of water. But she still asked the question. "What happened to them?" she rephrased. I faltered. Amber dragged her heels back in place, sticking to me like some parasite. I felt her little cheek peer from around my side so that she could look at her friend. As if it was entirely normal to speak while one of you was covered in sticky red, Amber asked, "What do you mean?" "Amber," Lyra said, holding up one finger. She moved it back and forth, enunciating each word with tightly controlled poise. "Listen closely." "To what?" Amber asked, but was ignored. "What happened to my parents, Sir El?" Lyra asked, one last time. I bit the inside of my cheek. The words were so simple, but they felt wrong. "They died." "What?" Amber exclaimed, but the mouse didn't twitch a single muscle. She did sniff, loudly. "Amber, your papa is not right." She paused. "He's not acting right. Sir El is the only one to return, and he's injured. Your papa killed my Vera. He killed my Vera. But she must have deserved it?" Lyra the mouse was unyielding. "What did she do?" she demanded, stamping her foot with a splash of liquid. "What did she do? When has she ever done anyone any wrong? When we walked into this room, your papa was already acting strange. She was trying to get us out of here, and he killed her. But if he'd wanted us to stay," Lyra continued, like a predator narrowing in on their prey, "is it normal to kill her first instead of asking?" Amber's grip slackened, but I didn't pull out of her hold. She swayed back and forth, but before she could fall, I pulled her back in. Her face buried itself in my stomach. "Are they truly dead?" Lyra asked me. "Sir, please." "They're gone," I said, unable to say the word dead straight to her face again. I buried them myself. The calm broke. Lyra closed her eyes, a deep wrinkle forming between her brows. Her sobs were quiet, but they moved her whole body. Bloody hands came up to cover her face, and she just stood there, silently wailing. "Hey, kid," I nudged the growth on my leg. "Go be with your friend." But at Lyra's tears, Amber changed. She backed up, releasing me on her own. Turning to her father, she demanded, "Someone's killed the vice commander and the lieutenant corporal. Dad, now is not the time to be arguing. We need to take out whoever did this. What are you doing standing there?" Instead of a response, Boss started laughing. He bent over, hands against his stomach in full-bellied rumbles. "I couldn't have done it better if I tried. Oh, Ambriana, no king can craft you better than I. Oh, no. No. El, do you see? Do you see how much she resembles you?" I slowly shook my head. I couldn't believe my thoughts, my opinions, my history. But now I was contemplating whether my eyes were working. He looked like a complete stranger. Where was the commander I had always known? Had he ever existed? "This," I said, choked, "all this was because of that decree? Was because the king tried to take Amber away from you?" The commander laughed and laughed and laughed. "You allowed that blue bastard." My hands balled into fists so tightly my jagged, broken nails burst into their flesh, mixing blood with dirt. "To kill my family, to kill your family, my friends, your friends, everyone. Lyra's sobs stumbled and stopped, and Amber's face fell and didn't pick itself back up again. I don't get it, I said, stumbling forward. How do you get what you want, with everyone dead? My face crinkled, but I wasn't crying. Like the pits I dug into the earth, my eyes were empty caverns, my mouth open and hungry. I needed to lay down new eyes, new words. I needed to undo every single thing this man had made of me, but I didn't know how, and it was too late. If you wanted something from us, we would have... I stopped, suddenly, as exhaustion overtook me. I could feel every particle of dirt caked beneath my fingers, and the blood covering my forehead was so heavy it was smothering. We would have done anything for you. I know, Boss said, sobering. But what I needed from you was my tragic backstory. The words he used were simple. At least, I understood each one of them individually. But when strung together, I found I couldn't make sense of it. I receded into silence, sword held outstretched in my hand. I didn't know the proper protocol for killing your commander. Was I supposed to wait until he stopped talking? But that couldn't be right, could it? This new boss was much more of a talker than the old one. If he never stopped talking, then when would it be right to swing my sword? Did I have to issue a direct challenge? Have a proper duel? Amber piped up. Dad, I don't understand. Are you saying you knew the lions would get hurt? It wasn't just the lions, but I didn't dare bring up the madam. Amber couldn't believe her father had killed a woman, even when it had happened right before her eyes. I wouldn't hold it against her, though, because even after I'd buried my heart inside of 30 graves and walked back to the capital on foot, I'd tried to do the same thing. First, I'd tried blaming the Dragon Regiment. With Amber named the heir, the princess wouldn't want the lions to grow more powerful. If it was true that the king wanted to spare the bulk of the regiment from execution, then the princess could have decided to take matters into her own hands. I'd tried to place the blame at the king's feet next, but no matter how my mind worked through it, nothing could explain the hands. Those damned blue hands. Blue bastards, we called them, but that was just a nickname. Only their stupid leader had skin that bright shade. The rest of his flock had skin the color of a ghastly purple. I highly doubted a new god had been birthed, fully formed, and capable of hunting the special forces into dust without previously facing us in battle. And it hadn't been a disguise. Rory was a master at disguise, but even he couldn't pretend to have a demon's magic. There was only one conclusion. Boss had wanted us dead. He'd wanted us dead so bad that he'd partnered with the foul creature responsible for taking hundreds of lives and cursing our skies, the thing responsible for throwing Polny into a state of war for over a decade, more than half of which had mobilized every single regiment in the military. Boss ignored his daughter, but he didn't ignore me. Did you always hate us so much? I asked. Even your wife? The commander's brows rose. I've never hated any of you. A pause. Does that surprise you? Mama. Amber's voice grew near hysterical again. Those little hands tugged at my belt loops. What is Sir El talking about, Dad? I held neither affection nor dislike for Catrice, Boss answered. An amused smile threw his face out of focus, angled in strange, jutting points. That shocked you more. You really loved him, didn't you? He asked. He'd never been so curious about me before, and I didn't like it now that he was. I'm sorry for your loss, Elle. Can't we make this easy? You don't really want to kill me. No, I would like nothing more. I don't. His firm boots crunched against the floor slats as he took a step forward. So let's put an end to this, son. Why? I asked. So you can hold Amber over the king's head? I still don't see how you get what you want. They'll figure out you never killed the blue bastard. They won't pity you at all. Pity? Boss raised his brows. For the first time, I'd shocked him, but I didn't know how. Not until he keeled over again, holding his stomach as brutal laughs scattered spit from his mouth to the floor. You think any of those rotten nobles can feel pity? Oh, Elle, you are too precious. Amber's hand squeezed my waist tight. I felt another set of hands, bloody and wet, come up to grab my wrist without the sword in it. The mouse. The three of us watched Commander Garfield's descent into madness. Is everyone truly dead, Sir El? Lyra asked, blinking up at me with watershed eyes. I nodded. Truly? I nodded again. No, Amber yelled, letting me go. That's not true. That's not... I don't... She sobbed, her whole tiny body moving from the force of it. I don't understand. She spun, fists clenched, as she looked at the laughing loon that used to be the fiercest lion of us all. My dad isn't a killer. My dad isn't a monster. He would never hurt the lions. You're confused, Sir El. You've been through something bad. You don't know. It was amazing to look at this little girl who hardly stood up to my ribcage and watch her try to rationalize. She'd grown up surrounded by mud, never knowing her father, yet she'd idolized him and everything he stood for. She'd never doubted that he would come home to teach her, train her, love her. She hadn't been raised to doubt. So what was my excuse?